Welcome to Latitude at Frontline. I'm Nirupama Subramanian. Field Marshal Asim Munir reportedly made a remark during his recent visit to the US that if Pakistan faced an existential threat, it had nuclear weapons and would take down half the world with it. The remark was condemned by the Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi, which said making nuclear threats was Pakistan's stock in trade. The Pakistan Foreign Office said the Field Marshal's remarks had been distorted and twisted out of context and dismissed the MEA statement as immature. The spat has added another layer of rancor to the post-Pahalgam, post-Operation Sindoor hostility between the two countries. Rana Banerji, who headed the Pakistan desk at the Research and Analysis wing some years ago, and continues to study and write about developments in that country, is with us today to help make sense of Field Marshal Munir's reported remarks and understand what's going on in Pakistan today after all this, after Sindoor, after Pahalgam, and how is General Asim Munir faring in his own country. Mr. Rana Banerji, welcome to Latitude.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
As a long-time watcher of the Pakistan Army, what do you make of these reported statements by General Asim Munir, or Field Marshal Asim Munir, should I say, that Pakistan, being a nuclear country, would take down half the world with it if Pakistan senses an existential threat? As I said, the MEA called it nuclear saber rattling. And though the Pakistan Foreign Office said he was misquoted, it did not provide the exact remarks that he made. It did not clarify what he actually said. He also threatened to blow up any dam that India makes to stop the waters in the Indus Rivers basin from flowing to Pakistan. If these reports are correct, what do you think he was aiming to achieve with these remarks?
Well, the term existential threat certainly sort of links up to nuclear theory or nuclear doctrine. Now, Asim Munir is not known to be an expert in terms of military or nuclear tactics. His knowledge of socialism has been his Islamic capability to cite from the Quran ad valorem and have, Quranic prayers at even cabinet meetings, for which, of course, he has found a lot of support from the political leadership after the recent confrontation between Pakistan and India. So if we go back to the term existential threat, Munir seems to have made it in the economic context because Pakistan's economy has been known to be in a bad shape. And ever since he took over, he has tried to place a special emphasis on trying to bail out Pakistan, though without any clear plans at his behest. But he has set up this special investment facilitation council where he has senior army officers directly looking into the day-to-day functioning of the outfit. But if we go back to nuclear doctrine, and Pakistan has had or has defined a doctrine which they refer to as full spectrum deterrence and quid pro quo plus. This is the language which has been used by their nuclear czar, the retired Lieutenant General Khalid Kidwai, during his recent utterances before international audiences at the RUSI in February 2020, or even later in Islamabad international conferences. Now, even before these utterances, Khalid Kidwai, just before he retired as the head of the Strategic Plans Division, had specified in 2007 certain red lines which would involve or provoke usage of a nuclear deterrent by Pakistan. And there he had defined 4 aspects: the spatial threshold, what he called the spatial threshold, if Pakistan lost some territory, and this would have included Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Then the military threshold, which meant if defeat loomed large. Then there was the economic threshold. If, for instance, there was a Karachi blockade by India, or in any other way, India had threatened its economic well-being. In present context, the reference could be to the Indus Waters Treaty, and a political threshold where the whole system was seen to be crashing down. Now, if you use the term existential in the context of these red lines, then it would probably align closest to the economic threshold, which Asim Munir may have been referring.
And the Indus Waters Treaty being kept in abeyance by India.
Yes, of course. That, of course, is the current, pet theme on which even civilian leaders like the Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif recently, and also the former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, have held forth as to the need to restore the current status of the Indus Waters Treaty, which is in abeyance, but they are now referring to the International Court of Justice decision or view given recently that it can't be kept in abeyance.
That the waters have
This is going to be a recurring theme in their, return in the days to come.
So, who do you think General Asim Munir's audience really was? Was it for the benefit of his newfound friend, President Donald Trump, who claimed that he stopped the war between the two countries, between India and Pakistan, and that a war that was, in his words, going to turn into a nuclear war within a week, and thousands of people would have been killed? Or was it to key up Trump and provide him more ground to make that claim again and to continue with the internationalization of the India-Pakistan conflict? Or was it for a domestic Pakistani audience? Because we know that, a lot of the time, a lot of South Asian leaders make statements abroad which are actually meant for a domestic audience for purposes of domestic politics. Was it for the diaspora, which is seen to be closely linked to Imran Khan and the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf? Or was it a serious message to India on its new doctrine that every terrorist attack will be seen as an act of war and India will respond to it as such?
Well, I would tend to look at it more as meant for the Pakistani diaspora audience and also his own domestic audience in Pakistan. We shouldn't make a mistake. There is no doubt that Asim Munir is being courted by Washington, by new regime, President Trump's regime. But this particular message or this particular speech of Asim Munir, I think he seemed to have got a little bit euphoric, got carried away after the speaking and the reception that he got from high personages of uniformed level at the level of Chief of Defense Staff and the former CENTCOM commander, the new CENTCOM commander. And after that, when Adnan Asad, who is the honorary consul general of the Pakistanis at Florida, he organized this meeting for the diaspora. There were about 100 to 120 people invited. Of course, they were asked to switch off their phones or not carry phones inside and to have strictly no reporting possible. But the remarks that he made, it was very clear that Asim Munir wanted these remarks to reach India, whatever manner required. And in such a large gathering, it would be very difficult to restrict what he said. So what he said, he definitely meant it or intended it to be known in India. But the interesting aspect is that the ISPR, which normally reports every movement of the army chief, be it whether he is leaving Washington, now he has left Washington to go to Brussels, or what he said to whom, there is reported in quite much detail. This time the ISPR has not mentioned his rant against India. There have been one or two reports in the media obliquely referring to what Munir said about disruption of Indus water flows and how if India made a certain obstacles or dams on it, how these could be broken by use of the nuclear option. To that extent, yes, but I don't think the Pakistani and the Pakistani military wanted to give an opportunity to saner elements in the USA to accuse him of misusing the stage of a third country, which earlier used to be friendlier to India.
So no, but they haven't, the US has also not come out saying anything about these reported remarks. They haven't really taken them up on it. They haven't criticized it. They haven't said what they think about these remarks. So there's been silence from the US administration and also the US strategic community. The whole non-proliferation lobby, everybody is very quiet about this.
Yes, at the moment, you see, anybody who is in the official system is taking the cue from Donald Trump. I mean, he is irrational, he is unpredictable, he's made it quite clear openly that he is, taking a position which is friendlier to Pakistan and more hostile to India. So that is probably silencing such saner elements to, uh, uh, make this point. Though there will be comments in due course by more sensible people, but they will have nothing to do with the authority lines inside the new government in US.
Right. I mentioned also in my question that is it also, a response to India's new doctrine that every act of every act of terror will be seen as an act of war, and whether this was to discourage, was Asim Munir trying to discourage India from actually putting this doctrine into practice ever, if such an occasion rose?
Well, I don't know. The jury should be out on that one. It's a little bit immature to comment on this, but in India, certainly there should be very careful analysis of what he said and what implications ensue in the context of military warfare, the thin line that is there between conventional warfare and nuclear warfare. Pakistan says that they have seamlessly drawn up the connection between military conventional usage and nuclear approach. They have a strategic forces command. They have tactically deployed missiles. They also have nuclear capable missiles available and though they are not mated, they say that within 2 hours we can make them and make them operational at the strategic field command level. To counter all this, we should have, or we must be having, war gaming to, tactically or conventionally, or even in terms of nuclear ripostes, work out our strategies. And I hope that there is some open debate also inside India in regard to these options involving the strategic community here. At the moment, there is not. And if I may flag a somewhat old comment, but an interesting one by a US academic, Colonel David A. Smith, who have written 2 very interesting books on the Quetta experience and the Wellington experience, where he has talked to senior American officers who have attended these military colleges inside Pakistan and India over a period of time. And one of the comments he has made in the book Wellington Experiences, written in 2020, he suggests, he may be correct or he may not be correct, that in a study of attitudes and values within the Indian Army, he found a lack of understanding of the nuclear dimension of future conflicts with Pakistan. And that is so. This is a somewhat damning assessment. As I said, it may or may not be correct. But the strategic community in India certainly deserves to know if the concerned specialists of India's nuclear command authority and the strategic command that we have are off with this understanding or lack of understanding, or have taken up corrective measures to, be adequately prepared meet with the threat. Overall, I would not be in complete agreement with the sort of approach in which we have bound ourselves post Operation Sindoor, because there is also the question of international perception about how the 4-day conflict panned out. And the question overall also has question marks about the role of China, how the Pakistan Air Force was seamlessly trained in the use of Chinese equipment through training inside China, and how these experiences, training, and actual implementation of such type of advanced weapons was able to give them an edge, particularly in the first 2 nights of the fighting between the two air forces. And this is an international perception that has a stake. And I'm afraid the Indian military leadership has not been able to dispel this impression in the few interviews that have emerged uh, much belatedly about what sort of achievements in the fighting the Indian Air Force or the Indian military were able to achieve.
The Indian Air Force chief recently made the remark that the Indian Air Force had actually downed a few F-16s and a large plane and some radar systems.
I would think that the delay in giving this reply has eroded the credibility of the statement to a considerable degree. Also, that there is no actual evidence of the downing of the wreckages and all that has been displayed. So it's his word against that of the Pakistanis. And again, as I said, the international perception remains to our disadvantage.
I want to understand his state of mind. I mean, you have studied him very closely in these past years that he has been the army chief. Is this the bluster of a defeated man, or is this the confidence of somebody who sees that who thinks that he has actually won this 4-day conflict against India?
Well, certainly it is the latter. And in his statements, as I said, he's not much of a nuclear thinker, but he has certainly conveyed both that his elevation as Field Marshal and the performance of the services in Pakistan, defense services, were to be interpreted as a victory. And he has allowed himself to feel a little bit gung-ho in this particular evening discourse that he has interacted with the Pakistani diaspora there. Of course, the opposition shown by the pro-Imran elements of the Pakistani diaspora in US, shouting of anti-Munir slogans wherever he has appeared, that would have had something to do with it. And it may have been also a signal to them. But the perception of this having been a victory that seems to have, settled on Asim Munir.
And so, just 6 months back, he was on the ropes. He was like really unpopular in Pakistan because he had jailed Imran Khan, who continues to be in jail, of course. And Imran Khan still has a vast following within Pakistan. But Asim Munir's own fortunes seem to have changed after Operation Sindoor. And he seems to have cemented his position both politically and also within the army. There was talk before all this, that there were people in the army who were out to get him. But now it seems that may not be so. What's your sense from what you're hearing?
Oh, presently within the army, his position is absolutely unassailable. Even earlier, my take was always that once he had been made the army chief, it was very difficult for those dissenters, even within the army, to come out in open or to do some scheming to oust him. General Faiz Hamid, former DGISR, may have been behind some of such maneuvers, but he was court-martialed. And interestingly, although the legal proceedings of his court-martial have been completed a good few months back, but the actual results of the court-martial have not been made public. So there is this scepter hanging uh, over the neck of both Faiz Hamid and also Imran Khan. How, if they can be linked together, then it makes Asim Munir's position that much stronger in terms of the opposition that these two persons individually hold against him. Overall, of course, in political terms, Imran Khan's popularity remains inside Punjab. The moment he is released, if he is released, he would be able to once again organize support in that regard. Although the Sharif's family has now tried to revive its hold. Daughter of Nawaz Sharif is the Chief Minister of Punjab. She's trying her best to present a sort of people-friendly administration approach. But politically, they have not been able to regain the ground that they had once the PML Nawaz of, impregnable superiority against the PTI. That is still there. But within the army, I don't see any revolt or any resentment. There may be, feelings that, his term is going to be very long, and those aspirant generals who could have made it as army chief, they would be feeling bad about it, but these feelings would be kept well within their own thoughts. It will not come out openly. At least if you look at the history of, extensions of army chiefs in the past, it's only after the first term, if an army chief, say like General Kiani, gets an extension, then towards the middle of his extended term, his position starts to weaken. So this type of thing could happen even with Asim Munir, but not immediately, in a little while, probably.
So how are these statements by him that if we face an existential threat, we'll take half the world down with us because we have nuclear weapons too? How has this statement gone down in Pakistan? And how do you think it's gone down in the army itself?
That is difficult to say because it's just happened. And most of it, would be ascribed to Asim Munir's attempt to get US investors back into Pakistan. On that, there is a lot of euphoria and hope. And with this Bitcoin thing, the company which has financial services company in which relatives of President Trump are supposed to have made a deal with the Pakistani cryptocurrency setup under this Bilal, what is his name? Bilal bin Said or Bilal bin Iqbal. Yeah.
Saqib Bilal.
Saqib bin Bilal. Yeah, that is his name. He is originally from UK, but now, of course, roaming around all over the world and in USA. So this, what comes of this partnership, whether the American companies come in for oil exploration, there are little chances of improving, finding new potentially rich oil deposits. But in other fields, where the SIFC, the Special Investment Facilitation Council, could play a role if actually Munir is able to entice some American investors to come in. I think that will cement his position further. And at the moment, there would not be, much. They will try to leave the references to nuclear existentialism or threat as a sort of slip of tongue on part of the chief. She shouldn't have made in USA.
Yeah, because that cannot be reassuring to investors. It cannot be reassuring even to Pakistanis, to be told that, okay, we'll go down, but we'll take the rest of the world with us.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That would not. Yeah, and also, the obvious thing is if they can hit at dams on the Indus, then India could hit at dams in the Tarbela and Bungla dams, and much more deluge could be created with devastating consequences for Pakistan. So, a concerned opinion in Pakistan would be aware of India's capabilities in this regard and the foolishness of making this type of statement, that too in USA. So these are difficult issues to. Of course, if you go back to more assured nuclear specialists like General Khalid Kidwai, now he has tried to present the face of Pakistani nuclear policy as one being more reasonable or more aligned towards strategic stability in the region, whereas they assign India as the main destabilizer of regional stability. So that is the more typical Pakistani position. And I suppose once Munir comes back, wiser counsel would prevail to uh, put his statements back into this perspective. In the interesting point here being that the ISPR has not made much of Munir's nuclear relevant statement.
When you said General Khalid Kidwai was tried to present the same face of Pakistan's nuclear program, I recall, if I may just make a personal remark here, I recall the time that I was posted in Pakistan, and it was a time that people were saying that Pakistan's nuclear weapons could fall into the hands of the Taliban or the Pakistan Taliban, and that they are in danger. There may be insiders who may actually hand them over, and so on and so forth. And Lieutenant General Khalid Kidwai actually held a press conference in the Strategic Plans Division, to which he also invited the two Indian journalists posted in Pakistan at that time, and I was one of them. So it was quite an experience actually to be driven into the nuclear, the sanctum sanctorum of Pakistan.
Yeah. Must have been.
Yeah. No, there's
yes, he has actually addressed this issue very openly, and he had the advantage because at that time the FBI was working jointly with the Pakistani nuclear setup to have these personal reliability screening programs introduced into the Pakistani scientific community, and they have been quite successfully drawn up in consultation with the FBI officers authority that was there in Lahore. And so that made the Pakistani nuclear establishment much more comfortable after.
There has been talk that Field Marshal Asim Munir covets the post of President of Pakistan, and that he's angling to become one by removing Asif Ali Zardari and getting himself installed with the help of Shahbaz Sharif and the other Sharifs. It won't be the first time that's happening in Pakistan. One recalls that Pervez Musharraf was President General for a few years. But is that scenario likely in today's Pakistan? Will that happen?
Personally, I don't see that happening. This has now been denied by the Pakistani Prime Minister and others also. There was some discontent within the army with the style of functioning of President Zardari, about which, of course, I have written recently. You see, there was a special briefing organized for him by the army engineers about the possibility of enhancing the irrigation capability of the Thar desert area and the bordering areas between Sindh and Punjab through use of canals. And a lot of retired army officers have land in this Sakkar and Guddu barrage areas. So a special briefing was given some months back, and this was, of course, leaked to Sindhi politicians. And the only person who could have leaked it would have been Zardari himself. So, and they then built up an agitation of sorts about not allowing any of this to happen because Sindh was already a water-deprived province. And if such type of canals were to be made, would reduce the inflow of Sindh, Indus waters into the Sindh further. So, of course, nothing much more has come of the projects that were discussed at that time. So, this may have been one reason for the army's unhappiness with Zardari. But politically speaking, there is no need for Munir to become president at this stage because he had a completely malleable and docile prime minister at his behest. And even the chief minister of Punjab is from the same family. So they do everything after consulting the military leadership. So this is probably the most comfortable uh, situation of the hybrid system that has been accepted, modeled by the army leadership. Of course, in the army view that ultimately a presidential system of governance would be a better option for Pakistan. Various army generals have written papers. At the time of Imran Khan also, there was this report about the Nawab of Tonk, former army commander of Bangla, having written a paper regarding the presidential form of government's applicability to Pakistan. Also, they have this problem in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa more, and also in Balochistan of the local government, the provincial government there, not being able to establish its writ in police and law and order terms against the operations of the uh, Tehrik-e-Taliban various factions, also Wali Masood's factions. And in KP, there has been a complete collapse of the administration. In Balochistan, uh, now they have started more direct army involvement in dealing with the insurgency, and they don't have any political approaches. The Baloch disappearances committee people are still agitating. They are doing sit-in agitations in Islamabad for the last 2 months. It's continuing. So there are no political approaches to resolve the problems that they face in these two provinces.
But Pakistan has won a small victory in Balochistan with the help of the United States.
This is a very small victory. This hardly matters. You know, Majid Brigade being designated. Already the BLA was designated.
Majid Brigade and the Balochistan Liberation Army.
But the BLA has been designated since 2019. It hasn't affected their capabilities. And Majid Brigade is an offshoot of it. So this will be just for the record books. And I don't think it will dent the capabilities as an insurgent outfit.
What is your reckoning of the theory that Asim Munir is now so confident on his own, on his own rhetoric? He's so punch drunk on this perception of having inflicted both military and diplomatic defeat on India. So, what is your reckoning of this feeling that in such a state of mind, he might actually be tempted to start a war with India at this point, at some point in the near future?
You see, I fear for Asim Munir, this feeling of being punch drunk. I hope he has a sobering reminder with the country's economic situation once he comes back and tries to grapple with it in real earnest. But yes, the possibility of another war, it cannot be ruled out, but it won't be immediate. It will be in a time frame of about 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years, because of the damages that they have suffered from our side have been considerable. So to make up for that damage and to once again get sophisticated Chinese equipment to fill up the gaps in their air defense, for instance, and other mechanisms, it will take some time. And they would be going for these developments because they have certainly no illusions left about, the capabilities of India to resort to further actions if, there are some major incidents on our side, which could be ascribed again to the Pakistani hand. So they will have to upgrade their defense capabilities with can only happen with the help of China. This will take some time.
Yeah. Also, there was that rather interesting statement by the ISPR spokesman to The Economist, who said that now when it starts, it will be from the east. What did he actually mean? What was he trying to say there?
Again, I would regard this more as rhetoric. Also, he has referred to the capabilities of this Indian industrialist, Mr. Ambani, his factories, etc. Now, this reflects a typical warped thinking of the Pakistanis. They cannot withstand anything good that could happen to India, and this thinking has infiltrated so deeply into their psyche, in the military psyche, and it is rather disappointing to see that even the chief of the army thinks in such a narrow way. I mean, perhaps the General Bajwa before Munir was a refreshing contrast to this, because he at least envisaged the possibility of development of the subcontinent together. And he spoke about it in international conferences hosted in Pakistan in 2021. But Asim Munir seems to be completely bereft of this type of thinking, and his mind is getting increasingly narrower with this overdose of Islamic, tenets and thoughts of this nature, which I feel sorry about.
And the perception of that victory.
Well, that will fade out after some time, because basically Pakistan's position in economic terms continues to be very bad. So he will have to grapple with this situation, considering that he's in almost total control, and they are not taking any substantively different reform measures to tackle these problems, the economic problems. So it's just going to be a story of loans and rollovers and things to tide over the situation, and whether actually foreign investment would come of the lasting nature, which could revive industries, which would open up channels of employment, revive the special economic zones in the coastal areas, revive Gwadar project. All these are big question marks. Nothing seems to be taking off for the Pakistan economy. So that is where he'll come across.
So I asked you about the ISPR's reference to, how the Pakistani attack will come from the east. Is that a reference to Bangladesh?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, they're being naive if they think that Bush will once again collude with them. But it is just a type of rhetoric which, personalized influences of, this gentleman, Chaudhry, who is the son of Sultan Bashiruddin Mahmud. He has, been brought up to think in a particularly Islamic way. And he is one of the most favored officers of Asim Munir, who have been given this post, the DGISPR, Ahmad Sharif Chaudhry.
Mr. Banerjee, what do you actually make of, this bonhomie between the US and Pakistan? How would it have gone down in China? How is China viewing that, considering China and Pakistan are such great friends? And now Asim Munir seems to be making a very conscious effort to reach out to Pakistan. He's been there twice already after Operation Sindoor. I think he's been only once to China after that, after Operation Sindoor perhaps. But he's been twice to the US, and they are really chummy with the military leadership in the US. Has been very, very friendly with Asim Munir. They have given him, they praised him highly. So how do you think China is looking at this new affection?
Well, China would not be uncomfortable with it. They have seen it in the past. They know that the extent of Pakistan's military dependence on Chinese is absolute. And so they won't be much worried about it. In fact, they'd be quite happy to let this happen to the extent that it does, without worrying about Pakistan leaving China's door. It's not going to happen. So they'll be quite comfortable with it, and they will let it ride, and it will play out in the short term with transactional relationships till such time as Donald Trump seems to be infatuated with Munir and his ilk, maybe till after he gets his Nobel, if he gets his Nobel. So it will not worry the Chinese.
Mr. Rana Banerji, thank you so much for your time and for all your sharp insights into General Asim Munir's thinking and what his remarks meant and how they're going down in Pakistan and the steps that India must take in regard to those remarks. Thank you so much.
Yes,
it was a pleasure speaking to you.